Hey, 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 you know what day it is. What day is it? It's Tuesday Tea with D. Come on, Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. It's Tuesday Tea with D. Come on, Tuesday Tea with D. You know, Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Hey, boo. Hey, it's your girl, Detra Trueheart, your life purpose generator, purpose provoker, your personal life coach, here with another weekly dose and serving of Tuesday Tea with D. And today's conversation is called Being the First Carries Weight. Being the first carries weight. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But first, we got to talk about this tea here. First of all, can I tell you that I made this tea? And I'm not just talking about the lemon and the honey that I put in the tea. This is a fresh ginger tea with fresh ginger. Your girl is getting the tea skills. You hear me? So of course, I got to show you the ginger. Can you see that? Look at that. You see the ginger in there? And so I went to the store. I got some ginger, and I've had the ginger for some time, and I wanted to make some ginger tea and then find out other ways to use the ginger because I know ginger is good for you. And yesterday, for whatever reason, I ate something, or I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, my stomach was upset. And I looked up, teas for upset stomach. And what do you know? Ginger tea is a tea for not only for upset stomach, digestion, it's all kinds of stuff, benefits to ginger tea. I'll just tell you to go and Google, benefits of ginger and benefits of ginger tea. But at any rate, so I decided for Tuesday Tea with D, so excited, that I would make some ginger tea and share it with you. So yeah, so I am now I won't say I'm on this quest of trying to find other teas that I can make, but I'm gonna be making me some ginger tea here. And it's good. And it's got the ginger kick, the little spiciness to it, which I like. So, all right. So before we get into this conversation, I have a couple things that I want to share with you. The first thing that I want to share is my new masterclass is happening next Monday. We talked about this last week, cancel comparison. Let me put up the image so that you can look at it. You can go get the details and the information. You can go to TrueheartSpeaks.com/comparison. TrueheartSpeaks.com/comparison. And let's just say that, if you were in a space and as a matter of fact, I'm going to share something with you. I shared an email yesterday with my my email list. And so if you're on my email list, then you got it. But one of the things that I have been asking God about in regards to what he wanted me to share with the women on my email list, and I'll probably share it on social media as well. But since you're here on YouTube, I will share it as well. And I asked him really what he wanted me to share as it relates to next week, right? And the thing that he shared is that you are intentionally different. You are indeed created to stand out. And while you try to hide and blend in, you're frustrated because it's not working. You can't be you and them. You can't do what you were created to do and try to do what they do, even if it seems better than what you're doing. The assignment on your life and the purpose that God has placed inside of you was tailor-made just for you, but comparison has you second guessing yourself every time you go to take action. And so this masterclass really was a divine masterclass that the Lord gave me as I was doing one of my morning walks. And really, we need to cancel, we need to crush, we need to kill comparison. Why? Because it is killing your dreams, it is killing your focus. It is not just the thief of joy, but it also is the thief of execution. And so you can't execute. And because you can't execute, you can't focus. And because you can't focus, you can't execute. And so if that resonated with you, and if you're like, man, like, I feel like, there are some things that comparison has been stealing right from up under me because my focus always shifts to what everybody else is doing, then I want to invite you to join me for the Cancel Comparison Masterclass on Monday, August 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, listen, if you can't join me live, you'll get 30-day access to the replay where you can watch it, you can take notes, and get what you need to get from it. But go to TrueheartSpeaks.com/comparison, TrueheartSpeaks.com/comparison in order to register. Registration is $97. I had a birthday. If you're on my email list or follow me on social media, I had a little birthday celebration. And so if you missed that, it is now back up to $97. And so, but I tell you, $97 is more than worth it. It's probably should be charging more than that, but there has to be an investment, right? For your time, for my time and what I'm doing. But also you got to put some skin in the game, right? And so, yes, you get Tuesday Tea with D every single Tuesday. But when you want to go deeper and when you want those in-depth strategies and you want, the divine downloads that God has given me as it relates to topics like this, then you got to pay to play. And that's with anything, right? Be intentional about investing in yourself. All right. So I've said enough about that. I want you to be there. I'm going to put it up again. Join me at the Cancel Comparison Masterclass. Go to TrueheartSpeaks.com/comparison in order to register for next Monday. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull this out so that we can focus on today's conversation. And so today's conversation is all about being the first, right? I don't know about you, but there's some things that I am pursuing and that I have done that my family has never done, that my friends have not done, things that I've accomplished that some people in my circle or even just in my community and my family have not accomplished, have not done. And I really started at the beginning of the month. I was asking the Lord about some of the topics that we can talk about this month for Tuesday Tea with D, and this was one of those. Being the first carries weight. And in all honesty, I can't remember what took me to that, but I think sometimes, we get to a place where we're doing something that no one has ever done. And sometimes being first will have you thinking that you are in the wrong place, right? You're like, man, like, I feel like I'm out of place. And the reality is you are out of place because no one else has been there, right? No one else is doing it the way that you're doing it. And so sometimes when you're called to be the first, it's challenging because no one else has ever done it. No one in your family has ever done it. None of your friends have ever done it. And none of them are doing it. And so it's challenging because you don't have a blueprint. It's challenging because you can't really ask questions around like, well, how did you do it? Like, how did you navigate it? Like, and even sometimes, it's great when you can hire a coach who has been there, but sometimes you need a coach who can hold space for you while you're getting there. And sometimes the coach doesn't always have to be where you are, but they have the capacity to hold space and ask the right questions to be able to get you to where you need to be, right? They're equipped for that. And so when it's feeling challenging, it's feeling discouraging, it's feeling lonely and sometimes frustrating, when you are called to be the first. And I know a little bit about that. Like sometimes, and I've heard, people use the word trailblazer or pioneer or visionary. And so when you are called, right, to create a thing that has not been created, it does carry weight because nobody it's not like you're on the shoulders of other people who've done it before. It's like you're carrying the weight of this thing and you're trying to figure out like, man, like, how do I navigate this when no one else has done it? You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting because, when you are called to be the first, and I'm just pulling my notes here because I had a lot to write that I want to share with you. And normally when I have something, I don't always have notes, but the last few weeks, God has been giving me a whole lot. And so it's important for me to be able to make sure I'm not missing anything while I'm sharing with you, right? And so when you are called to be the first, you have to remember that you also carry a weight in establishing legacy, dismantling generational sin, generational trauma, generational habits, generational limiting beliefs. Like you're dismantling and establishing at the same time. And that's why it's weighty. Because again, you're doing something that has not been done by those who are connected to you. And I'm reminded of Joseph that sometimes the things that you go through are really so that you can go forward ahead of them and set things up so that they can be established when they get to where you are. And that really was the purpose of God's plan for Joseph. And Joseph explained that to his brothers when he had the conversation with them and finally revealed himself to them that, listen, like, don't worry about, feeling bad about, me getting here. I know what y'all did. Like, if you didn't know, I knew and I remember. But aside from that, this was a God ordained moment because I needed to go before you in order to make sure that I could save our people. Now, I don't necessarily know that your assignment is to save a generation, right? But you could be a bloodline breaker because of certain things that you're doing or no longer doing. And it becomes weighty. It becomes, stressful. It becomes strenuous. It becomes taxing sometimes because you feel by yourself. If I was at church or if I was on Facebook Live, I would probably say, like, can I get an amen? Who here is with me, right? Type a one in the comments if you can if you can understand what I'm talking about. But it's just me and you here, right? And so, but you're the one who said yes. Or maybe you didn't, but you're called, you're the called one. Right. And that's a whole nother conversation of being first. And, and this is something that I think I can have another conversation or do a live around. But sometimes I wonder, in being first, right? And realizing, for example, that let's just say you are carrying a mantle that technically was meant for your mother or your father, but they ran or they never fulfilled it. And so now it's on you. Right. And so whereas there are certain things that they didn't do, you now have to do, and you're carrying this load because there's certain things that they should have established that they didn't. One of the things that I think is important in this space is to know that if you are not able to find a blueprint, if you are not able to find someone who is doing what you're doing, if you're in a space where you're the first in your family, the first in the generation, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to give you a couple things that I want you to think about in being able to walk it out. But I want you to go to God, and I really want you to ask him for direction in this space because he's the one that created you. That's the very first thing that I want to say, because a lot of times we'll think we're out here by accident. We think that we're in the wrong place. We're thinking that we're doing the wrong thing because we can't find anybody else who's doing it or who has done it or who can help us through it. You are not in the wrong place. You are not you are like, you are the person, right? You feel like, well, maybe I'm not the person who should be doing this. No, you are the person. And so you have to go to the person who created you. You have to go to the manufacturer, right? Sometimes you have to go to the manual, right? Go to the word of God. But pay attention to when you find yourself in a space of being the first. Right? Being the first to go to college, being the first to get your master's, being the first to get the PhD, being the first to make a whole lot of money, being the first to actually, maybe to get a corporate job versus a manufacturing job or something like that. Being first to be an entrepreneur, being first to get married, being first to stay married, right? Being first to not get divorced, being first to have children, to have multiple children, maybe being first in having no children, being first in saying, I don't want to be married. I don't want to have children. Like, whatever it is, right? There's weight to it. There's weight to it. And just know that that weight is necessary because you got to be, you have to be weighty to hold what you're carrying. Like, you can't be, you can't have a flaky or a, what's the word that I'm looking for? A flimsy foundation for what you're carrying. And so you got to be weighty, right? And you got to be solid in order for what you're carrying to be able to be held as well. And so here are a couple things that I want to encourage you with, a few ways for you to be able to not only accept, but walk in being the first, right? And so the first thing is you got to accept that you're the only one and say yes, right? If you have not yet said yes, if you're still trying to figure out if you want to say yes, I want to encourage you to say yes, right? Give your full yes. Right? You feel it, you see it, something is different, but accept that in your immediate circle, you may not be able to find someone to guide you through this journey, right? You got to be able to accept that. Accept that in your immediate circle, you may not be able to find people to guide you through this journey. And when you can accept that, then you can position yourself to do the next thing, is be intentional about positioning yourself in spaces and places around people who can hold space for you and who are also firsts, right? Finding community when your current community isn't giving what it's supposed to give is a necessity. As an entrepreneur, you want to be around other entrepreneurs. As somebody who works in corporate America, you want to be around people who work in corporate America. The language is different in different cultures. And so even as an entrepreneur, if you're a coach, you also might want to find a community of coaches. If you are a strategist or a consultant, you might want to find a community of strategists and consultants. If you are the first in your family to accept your call to ministry, then you want to get in community where people who may have been the first, but who are also in ministry can support you and give you what you need in order to guide you, because it doesn't make sense for you to stay in a community and in a space where people don't understand you and you continue to be frustrated. Thus, you stagnate your ability to move forward because you feel like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this because nobody else is. Mm-mm. So once you've accepted, right, and you've given your yes, and then you've started finding community or started looking for community, the next thing I want you to do is start to read, study, and invest in yourself. Get in spaces, buy books, take courses, Google, YouTube, get into the Word of God, pray, start to learn as much as you can, because being the first means there really hasn't been a blueprint for what you are trying to do. And maybe it's not a blueprint that you have had access to, but maybe there's somebody out there who's like, you know what? I was a first, like I know what that's like. Like these are some of the things that I did that can support you. And sometimes you'll find that in community, you'll get people who can give you resources to help you find books, find, courses, find coaches, find mentors, sponsors, right? People who can support you, and resources and tools that can help you to build what to some extent you have never built before. The one thing that you also want to do, and I'm going to say this is it's not the last thing, but the last thing that I'm going to list here, is you want to trust God and you want to obey as he gives instructions, right? One of the things that I loved about Noah, and even I loved about like the Old Testament when they were building, the tabernacle. And I remember the Lord when he was giving instructions, and I would highlight it every time I would see it. And the Lord would say, build according to pattern. And so sometimes your life won't look like everyone else's life. So you have to be intentional about staying connected to God to make sure you are building according to the pattern that he has created for you. You have to build according to the pattern that he has given you. You have to build according to the pattern of the assignment that you have been called to walk in, right? And so if you are not staying connected to the one who has given the assignment, then you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be discouraged. You're not going to execute. You're not going to focus, right? And so being the first and sometimes the only can definitely be lonely, but know that God is with you. He has people who have also been the first, and the only, to remind you that it can be done. I'll say that again. Being the first and sometimes the only can be lonely, but know that God is with you and he has people who have also been the first and the only to remind you that it can be done. And so one of the challenges to being the first is that sometimes you find yourself trying to compare yourself and, what you're trying to do you're trying to compare what you're trying to do to what others is doing. And you realizing that that's not possible because that's not your thing. Right. And so I want you to be mindful of that, because when you start to look at what other people are doing, don't get caught up in comparison, hence the cancel comparison masterclass. Because a lot of times when we are called to a thing, it is not always exactly like everybody else's thing. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you can kind of cut and paste and you can be like, oh, okay, I see, yada, yada, yada. But sometimes it's not. And so when you are the first, understand that there is a weight And understand that sometimes you will find yourself comparing because you feel like that's where you can get it. But I'm telling you not to compare, which is why I want to invite you to join my cancel comparison masterclass next Monday, because I feel like there's some things that we are called to and some things we are called to step into. Fear steps in really because we're comparing what we're doing to what we think other people are doing or what we should do. And that's not what God is saying. That's not the assignment. And so, with that being said, I hope that today's conversation was good. I'm going to do a quick recap of the things that I shared, right? And so, a few ways for you to accept and walk in your first is to accept it, say yes, right? Give your full yes, get in community, invest in yourself, and then also stay connected to God. Obey the instructions as He gives them. Stop trying to do it yourself, like, oh, I can help God out, or I can do it this way, or oh, if God didn't instruct you to ask a specific person or to seek out a specific person, then don't do it. God didn't, if don't go putting yourself in spaces that you're not supposed to be in. But that doesn't mean not to look for community. You need to be around people who get it. You need to be around people who understand it, even though they're not creating what you're creating, or they're not stepping into what you're stepping into, or doing it the way that you're doing it. They understand. They understand the weight of it. They understand the pressure of it. So again, with that said, let me know how this message spoke to you, if it spoke to you. Let me know if you're registering for the masterclass. Go to trueheartspeaks.com/. I'll put this up again. Go to trueheartspeaks.com/comparison in order to register for the Cancel Comparison Masterclass. I really want you to be in a space where you can start to identify what comparison looks like when it shows up, how to reframe it, right? How to be able to affirm who you are, be able to, react and respond with the truth. And then also to be in a space where you can be able to move with confidence in who you're called to be, especially if you are a first. That is extremely important, because if not, then you're going to continue to go through the cycle. But let me say this as well, that you want to have these tools and you want to have these strategies, because there will be different levels of your life where comparison will come in and you'll see a thing, and that seed will try to be deposited. It'll try to be sown, and you will have the tools and the resources to be able to say, no, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what this is, and I'm not coming into agreement with it, right? So again, yes, make sure you plan to join me next Monday, August 21st, 7 p.m. for Cancel Comparison. I haven't talked about it much, but I will also let you know that tickets are still available for iSpeaklife Live. And so you can go to iSpeaklifelive.com to get all of the details. If this is your first time watching my YouTube video, this is my 3-day live in-person event happening December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of 2023. And this is a transformational spirit-led event for women who constantly pour out, but don't always take the time to be poured back into. And so if you're in a space where you're ready to unplug, you're ready to reconnect with yourself and with God, you're ready to, even not only activate your faith, but to put a resurgence to your faith so that you can really show up in a way that that God wants you to show up, then I want to invite you to be there. But you can go to iSpeaklifelive.com, iSpeaklifelive.com in order to get all of the details. So with that being said, I really hope today's message and today's tea was what you needed. Make sure you share it with 5 people once it goes up. And I shouldn't say go up because you're watching it now, but I will say, after you've watched it, click the link, share it on your social media pages, but also send it as a text to someone, 5 people, and say, hey, you should check this out, especially if there are people who who are first. And sometimes we don't know. Or just say, hey, subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out Tuesday Tea with D. Because this message might not be for everybody, but I know it's for somebody because God gave it to me. Point blank, period. And so with that being said, make sure also, I was going to forget, not only do you share this, but make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Make sure you thumbs up this video. Make sure you comment. Let me know, what you thought of today's conversation and how it spoke to you. And then obviously I want you to share it. right? And so I think that's it. And I think, I'm sure there were some other things that I probably could have shared on Tuesday Tea with D, but I think you got the gist of what I was sharing as it relates to being the first carries weight, because it does. And I hope that it also gave you a sigh of relief, like somebody gets it and somebody gets me. God gets me. He sent this message for me, because sometimes we're out here like, man, like, can you just send me a sign? Because I feel like I know I'm supposed to be doing this. I know I'm supposed to be in this space. I know this is where you've called me to be, but it doesn't feel like it, because I feel like nobody else gets it. And that's okay, because they're not supposed to. Well, not everybody, but you'll find your community, right? So with that being said, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my community. And I will see you next time on Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D.